Guys, welcome. It is Christine here. If you are new, I am mama to 3 little ones and I run a couple of blogs. One is basically a parenting blog. I share lots of tips on motherhood and how to make life easier. And my other blog, Raising Kids Making Money, is where I teach you how to manage your home and also how to make an income through blogging. So if either of those sound interesting to you, I'll leave them linked in the description below and you can check them out. But for today's video, I want to talk to you about the Wonder Weeks and everything you need to know about them. I first heard about the Wonder Weeks when I had my firstborn. I don't know if I think I only found out about them after I'd had him, not before. And it was just in like a couple mamas groups that I was in. People kept referring to leaps, and so I looked into it, and that's where I basically learned everything, was by looking into it myself. So if you are brand new to hearing about the Wonder Weeks, it is basically a book that talks about developmental leaps that babies go through. The leaps are predictable, but they're not leaps. They're not like developments in the way that we usually think about them, like learning to walk, and learning to crawl, and smiling for the first time, and things like that. This is kind of like the background to all of that, backstage to all those big motor developments. It's how the baby's brain develops. So it's very interesting for sure, and if you're very interested in development and how the mind works and everything, I think you'll find it fascinating. But what I want to talk to you today about is how to actually practically use the knowledge from the Wonder Weeks as a mom, as a parent, and the stuff that you shouldn't get hooked onto, because as much as the Wonder Weeks are really helpful, they can become really, stressful, I guess, if you put too much focus on them. So when you look into the Wonder Weeks, I'll have the book linked down below and the app linked down below. When you look into the Wonder Weeks, when you open the app for the first time, they will ask you to put your child's due date in. And it is, so all the leaps are based off of their due date, not the day that they were born, which I kind of find that a little bit odd, I'll be honest, because I feel like due dates can be incredibly inaccurate, and so I didn't put a lot of emphasis on that. And you'll hear more about how I focused and used the Wonder Weeks a little bit later. I'll talk about that. But it'll ask you to put the due date in. My recommendation is to put both the day you were born in and then set up a pseudo child and put in the due date for that one. So you've got both dates and you can compare. And it'll give you an outlook for the Wonder Weeks that your child is going to come up to, and when to expect them and that kind of thing. So the app is actually incredibly helpful. I have used it. I haven't really used it with my third child because I've had my kids so close together that I kind of know this stuff now. I just roll with the punches. But for your first child, it can be incredibly helpful. So it is a good app, and I would recommend it. But just for the sake of making it easy to understand, I'm just going to read off the list of Wonder Weeks that you can expect your child to go through. So I have all of this on my blog. I'll have the post linked below where I go more in depth into the whole Wonder Weeks thing. But I'm just going to read it here from my post. They've got 10 Wonder Weeks, and they are, and this is in order, changing sensations, patterns, smooth transitions, events, relationships, categories, sequences, programs, principles, and systems. So those are the different developmental leaps that your baby will go through. And I think a good way of thinking of it is they have to go through this leap so that they can crawl or that they can walk. But those, crawling and walking, aren't necessarily going to happen when they go through that leap. It's just kind of setting the groundwork so that later on when they're physically ready to do it, they're mentally ready as well. That's how I like to think of it anyway. That's what makes sense to me. What you will find is that during a lot of these Wonder Weeks, your baby's behavior may change somewhat. I find that my children tend to get fussier, or they want to be they're just more clingy. They want to be with me a lot more. Maybe their sleep's a bit disrupted. Not every child is going to experience disruptions. I know a lot do. But not every child does. Some children definitely do. My firstborn, there was one Wonder Week that it was just a doozy. But here's what I think about Wonder Weeks and why they can be really helpful. It'll give you an answer to your child's behavior, when there's like an anomaly, when you're like, why are they being so fussy? Like, they're not teething, they're well fed, you know, they're sleeping okay. Like, why are they behaving like this? And oftentimes you may look on your app and find that your baby's going through a Wonder Week. And it kind of is just like, okay, so I'm not doing anything wrong. It's just that my baby is going through, you know, a development, and it's normal and it's fine, and it will all go back to normal. So that is how I would recommend that you use the Wonder Weeks. I would not take that app or the calendar that comes with it, with all the different Wonder Weeks and when they're going to happen, and like look at that and think, okay, my baby's going to be fussy here and my baby's going to be fussy there, because it is going to get you so depressed if you do that. Instead, put the app away. Do not turn the notifications on. Put it away. And then if there comes a time your child is like just not behaving very well, or like, when I say very well, they're just abnormal to their normal happy self, you know, then go ahead and take it out and see if perhaps they're in the middle of a Wonder Week, because chances are they probably are. Because then you're not going to sit there and stress about it and be like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to be grumpy this week, and oh, what is it going to be like next week? That's going to rob you of the joy of motherhood, and that's the last thing I want for you. So that is how I recommend you use it. But I do think you should take a look at the book. It's very interesting. It's very fascinating. And, you know, just like you use those pregnancy trackers throughout your pregnancy and you're reading about the baby development, this is kind of like the postpartum side of that, where you can read along about how your baby's learning. And it's crazy how accurate it can be, and then sometimes I find it totally inaccurate as far as timing. But yeah, it's still interesting, and they do have really helpful tips for during Wonder Weeks. If you are finding your baby super fussy, they've got tips for how to help you manage that and what you should be doing and that kind of thing. So I did find it very matter of fact, and I liked that just the language that they use in it is not like, I don't know how to work, but they don't beat around the bush. They just say it how it is, you know, like your baby's being fussy, and they learn how to start manipulating. That's not until they're like the toddler stage, but they learn how to do certain things in order to get a certain outcome, and it's because of the development they're going through, not because they're like wicked. So yeah, I would recommend it to a new mama, but I would also recommend it with the advice of not getting too hung up on it, because it's not the be all and end all, and not every baby, like my third baby, I would say the Wonder Weeks, I find the most noticeable in the early months, and then after that it's not such a big deal, or at least you kind of forget about them because they're spaced further apart and stuff the older they get, and so it's not such a big deal. So, anyway, if you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.